paid people to pull out customers who are in line with a bag that's 2 centimeters too big, Mr. Schroeder?
Well, we recognize this is a hard job, and so therefore we incentivize them to do that.
How much?
It's $10 per bag.
Wow. $10 per bag. I mean, you guys do appreciate that flying on your airlines is a disaster, don't you? I'm slightly amazed by the general attitude of all of you here. Flying on your airlines is horrible. It's a terrible experience. I mean, I say this as a father of 3 young children, but I can't tell you, nobody enjoys flying on your airlines. It's a disaster.
Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri addressing the CEOs of major airlines at a hearing yesterday on Capitol Hill. With commercial air travel now surpassing pre-COVID levels, the Biden administration this morning is laying the groundwork to further protect stranded passengers when airlines cancel or significantly change flights. Under the potential new regulations, airlines would have to pay passengers at least $200 in cash compensation, rebook their next flight at no additional costs, and cover meals, overnight lodging, and related transportation expenses resulting from the delay or cancellation. Let's bring in Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg with more on this. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us this morning. So these seem to most travelers like common sense solutions to a problem that plagues so many of us with the airport so busy. You get delayed, you get canceled, you don't know where to go. Where am I going to stay? Where's my next meal coming? So how close do you believe you are to getting these implemented?
Well, we have to go through a process, getting a lot of public input and data, but this launches a process that I think will lead to more improvements for passengers. There's really 2 goals here. Make sure those kinds of disruptions are less likely to happen in the first place, and make sure you're taken care of when you do. That's been a big part of our push over the last several years as we've expanded passenger rights and as we've been putting pressure on the airlines. Cancellation rates have improved substantially. So far this year, it's around 1.3%. So we know that this approach works, making sure there are consequences when you let passengers down, and making sure that if that does happen, passengers are better taken care of. What's new here is for the first time, we're launching a process where the department would consider cash compensation and other requirements about what the airline has to do in those situations if it's caused by the airline. We get that nobody controls the weather, but if the airline gets you stuck, there ought to be some kind of regard, not only for getting you on your way, but also for the cost in terms of your time. And I would note that these kinds of policies are something you'll see widely used around the world, but up until now, we have not seen them in the United States.
Mr. Secretary, it's not often that I would think I would be agreeing with Senator Josh Hawley on much, but I certainly agree with him in that clip we just showed at the hearing. Commercial air travel in America for the average flying customer, people like me, is a nightmare. What can we do about the fact that when an airline is delaying a flight incomprehensibly long, it's going to be delayed for 3 hours or whatever, what can we do about getting a cash payment back for the ticket? Because it is inflicted pain on our time, on customers' times, on family times. But the airlines seem hesitant to just say, okay, here's a refund.
Well, that's something that we have enacted through our automatic refund rule, and that is taking effect this year, and I think will make a big difference. The idea here is if an airline owes you, as they do for a flight that's canceled or delayed past a certain amount, there's a 3-hour threshold for domestic flights, but longer for international flights, then you shouldn't have to fight or send an email or negotiate to get your money back. It should just come to you. And we finally were able to do that this year. What we're now announcing with today's process is that you would also get some kind of compensation for your time. There are a lot of places around the world where you would get some level of cash. And the concept that is in this proposal would start at a $200 cash payment to you, in addition to anything else that you're entitled to, if you are stuck and it's because of the airline. Also, requirements around rebooking, saying they got to put you on the next available seat, and if they don't have one after a certain amount of time, they got to be ready to put you on a seat of another airline. Covering hotels and ground transportation. We've already got enforceable agreements with the airlines, with most of the airlines requiring or providing that, but there's never been a rule that sets a floor floor, which means the airlines could change that. This would set a new framework for that. All of that is designed to address that core frustration that you're talking about, that feeling that so many of us have as passengers that we're not being well taken care of. And I can tell you, not just as a policymaker, not just as an agency head who fields thousands of complaints that come into our department, but just as a frequent flyer. I'll, in a few minutes, be hopping on a flight here at O'Hare. I know how frustrating that can be. And I know that we can get results through enforcement, transparency, and better regulation like this.
So, Mr. Secretary, you're laying the groundwork here for these changes, but obviously the Biden administration is in its final days. You've spoken to Donald Trump's selection to take your job if he were to be confirmed. Does the incoming Trump administration seem on board with what you guys are putting out there?
Well, we'll have to see what steps they take. But I will say this, they have said a lot of things and gone through a lot of motions that are populist. I think that will be tested in many ways. And one important test of that will be to see if the next administration follows through on what we've initiated and maintains the rules that we've created and the enforcement practices that we've created to hold airlines accountable. I have seen several airline CEOs express their hopes that the next administration will be less passenger friendly and more corporate friendly than we are. But I don't think that's guaranteed. I think that as that clip showed, there's actually bipartisan interest, bipartisan desire to continue advancing these passenger protections. I am proud that on our watch during this administration, during my time as secretary, we've delivered the biggest expansion in airline passenger rights in the history of the department. I would certainly challenge any future administration to maintain that record and build on it.
Secretary Buttigieg, on another issue, the future of the Democratic National Committee, there are people that have already announced that they're running to be the new chair. Some rumors that you may look at it. Whether you will seek this or not is the first part of my question. And secondly, if not, where do you think the DNC needs to be guiding its emphasis now? What direction should it take, being that it only lost the presidential election in less than 2%?
So I will not. I'm not entering that process. But of course, like so many people, I'm watching it with a lot of interest. That's about as much as I can say about the party side, just because I'm appearing as a federal official right now. But certainly something I'm watching as a citizen, something I care about. And one other thing that I would note is that from a policy perspective, and just as we think about the future of the country, I believe that we not only have a lot of great leaders to work with in Washington, who I do believe in the House, in the Senate. Some of them just coming in, having just been elected. Some of them I have been working with for the last several years, who have been such a support to this administration, helping us get our work done. But also, I hope that we don't overlook what state and local leaders are doing. There is extraordinary leadership out there, so much of it coming from different figures and different generations on our side of the aisle. And I really believe that's going to be a huge part of the way forward.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, always good to see you, and thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. We appreciate
Same
it.
here. Thanks a lot for
having me.